In today's show, the Blazers relatively quiet to open free agency. Jerami Grant gets the bag. Trendon Watford gets waived. Drew Eubanks gets a new home. What are they going to do next? Welcome to Locked On Blazers. Let's get into it.
You are Locked On Trailblazers, your daily Portland Trailblazers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What up, world? It's your past first point guard and Trailblazers reporter, Mike Richman. You're listening to another episode of Locked On Blazers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, available wherever you get podcasts, and also on YouTube. Thanks for making the show your first listen. It's coming at you Monday through Friday, every single weekday. And plus today's episode, which is a bonus episode, the sixth one in your feed. You're not finding other Blazer podcasts that are churning out 6 a week. So if you are new to the program, make sure you subscribe. Lock on, y'all. It's your team every day. Get locked on with the program. I'm recording this on the evening of June 30th, a little special bonus episode following the first night of free agent action in the league. And the Blazers didn't do much. They kind of did the thing we thought they would do and a couple little surprises there. So today's episode is going to be a little bit shorter than your sort of typical 30-minute one, but it gets you caught up on everything you need to know, what they did and what's next for this team. What they did was they surprisingly, it started with waiving Trendon Watford. We'll talk about that. Drew Eubanks signed with the Phoenix Suns. He gone, but the big one is Jerami Grant. Let's start talking about Jerami Grant, then we'll touch on the other two. A couple backup bigs right up out of there for the Portland Trailblazers. But Jerami Grant's a forward who's going to get paid. He agreed to a 5-year, $160 million contract with the Portland Trailblazers, as reported by the people who report the news, I guess, in this world. Shams Charania and Adrian Wojnarowski. I have no idea who got it first. One of them had it first. 5 for $160 for Jerami Grant. If you're a longtime listener to the program, an everyday listener to the program, you know that like since, I don't know, March-ish, I've been making up a number for Jerami Grant. 5 for $148. And you will know that when I said I think he's going to get like 5 for $148 million, I would consistently say, that's too much money. Like that's too much money. That's going to be an onerous contract. Well, Jerami Grant went over that. 5 for $160. That's an average annual value of $32 million. I want to be like, I think the money it's like $160 million. Woof. And when you see the contract grades, I haven't looked at any of these yet, but I am certain folks around the association who write about contracts are going to not like this Jerami Grant money. But you kind of knew it was coming. That's why you listen to the program, so you kind of knew it was coming. It's like, it might still be a bad deal, and I think it is, but like, but it isn't like it wasn't that shocking to sort of Rip City faithful and particularly listeners of Locked On Blazers. If you're nasty, if you knew that 5 for $148 was the number, like 5 for $160, you're like, that's even more money. Oh no. But Jerami Grant was good. He was good last year. He averaged 20 points per game, shot plus 40% from 3 on some volume. He's probably a little overrated as a defender in Portland, but he's like he can hang on defense. If he guards guys his size and who are a little bit slower, he's like a straight up good defender in space. They asked him to guard fast guys too much and he was overmatched. He's not like a lockdown all NBA type defender, but he's like an above average defender in the league who can hang, who can be a really useful part of a good defensive team if the Blazers ever are to build one. The number is maybe not a shock. So let me be clear. Let me be totally clear on the Jerami Grant stuff. He's good. He's good. He's helpful, and like he was good last year. Safe to say he's probably going to be good again this next season. It's not really about year one with this money because he turned down a contract that was going to pay him 28. You knew he was going to get a raise. It was 28 average annual value. So it was 4 for 14 was the max contract he turned down. Max contract extension he was allowed to sign in the regular season. He turned it down because he was always wanting to get this 5th year. Gets the 5th year, and he bumped up from what was going to be 28 a year from projected at 4 for 114, jumped up to $32 million a year. I think in year one, it's probably fine for Jerami Grant. I think in year 2, it might not be that big of a deal for Jeremy Grant, but the back half of this contract is going to be onerous. It's going to be hard to trade, so it's not like you can flip him down the line because no one's going to want Jeremy Grant and over $100 million after the first 2 years. Maybe not nobody. That might be, I might slightly be overstating it as I record late on a Friday evening, but I think it will be hard to trade. I think it'll be hard to trade because the back half of this contract, Jeremy Grant's just going to be, he's into his 30s. Is he going to be like significantly better than he is now? And if he's, if it's a typical contract, it's raises every year. So like, he'll get, he's going to get more expensive as he gets a little worse. That always happens with contracts. It's kind of like the nature of the thing, nature of the beast, nature of paying someone who's, 28, 29 years old. The 5th year's tough. He was always going to get that 5th year. It's why I joked when at 5 for 148, there was like too much money to give him. When he got more than that, it's too much money to give him. Yeah, it's probably going to, I don't think you'll feel like this great burden of Jeremy Grant's contract over the next 2 seasons. In years 3, 4, 5, I particularly 4 and 5, that is going to feel like a lot of money. Like it's just going to be, and in this new cap world where teams with long-term big contracts seem to want to shed them so they can have some flexibility and deal with, there's more rules against expensive rosters. Having a really expensive guy in your roster who doesn't like play up to that level is going to be challenging. You throw him in there with the money Dame's making, the Blazers are going to just be up against it financially in the back half of this deal. They better be good right away. Like that's the whole point, right? That's assuming Damian Lillard's on the roster at that point as well. Portland had to do this though. They backed themselves in this corner with this. This had to happen. I've mentioned this on the show a bunch. Like they had to pay Jeremy Grant. There was no world in which letting Jeremy Grant walk was a better decision. That world is if you blow it up. Like and they, since they are, at least as I'm recording this right now, and I'm going to peek over at my Twitter feed real quick to make sure nothing's changed. Nothing's changed just yet. As of right now, they want to build and move forward with Damian Lillard. So if they're going to do that, Jeremy Grant was a must. You had to sign him if you wanted to entice Dame to stay. You also had to sign him because you traded assets to get him, and just letting him walk for nothing is just not good business. Now, if you're going young, you don't want to have Jeremy Grant 5 for 160. You probably don't want to have him 5 for 160 anyways. But like this, you had to do this. You had to do this because of the assets you trade to get Jeremy Grant. You had to do this because you can't let him walk for nothing. You had to do this because of this, like what John Hollinger calls the bird rights trap. You had his bird rights. There's no way to replace him. If you let him walk, you don't magically get cap space to add another good player. You just had to do it. This is your only way to add a talented forward, a position of desperate need on this team. Also, it's exactly, if you're going to keep Dame, this is the piece you need to keep Dame. This was step 1, agree to a contract with Jeremy Grant. Now they got to figure out steps 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 and 12 and 13. I don't think this is, like I said, I don't think this is like horrific overpay next season. I don't think the season after that is going to be that bad. It's the length of the contract that is going to be the burden, and it's going to be hard to move, and it's going to get clunky and bloated, and it's going to make building a competitive team more challenging. They have a very small window to be good. If they're good in that small window, the challenging back half of this doesn't matter. But I don't sit here today. Whatever. If somebody from whatever national publication that's still paying people to write about the NBA, there's like got to be 3 of them left. It's like someone's going to give the Blazers like somewhere between an F and a C-, and you're going to lose your mind. C- seems like a fine grade to me. And era of grade inflation. Not everyone deserves A's and B's. Okay, C is an average grade, but if this gets an F from someone, it's an F maybe in like the broader sense, but I don't think if they kind of fill out what they want to do over the next little bit, I don't think it's that terrible because, again, they kind of had to do this. You understand why they had to do this. Also, I don't think I've said this. Now we're 9 minutes, 10 minutes into the show. Congrats, Jeremy Grant. Congrats for getting the bag, dude. $160 million. That's great. I'm always rooting for the people that make basketball fun, the entertainers, the players on the court to get paid. Having players get wildly overpaid is great for them. It's maybe bad for like holistic team building stuff, but congratulations to Jeremy Grant. Go buy yourself all the Mason Marcello you can possibly want if you don't have it. A couple other minor notes, and then we'll talk about what's next for the Blazers, because what's next is like they didn't do a lot else. So what's going on? Before we talk about what's next, we talk about FanDuel. It's a great time to head on over to FanDuel because right now new customers get a no sweat first bet up to $2,500. That's $2,500 back in bonus bets if your first bet doesn't win. There's no better place to place all of your sports betting, then action that you want to get in on, all of them. All your sports bets that you want to be involved with, and America's #1 sportsbook. So visit FanDuel.com/lockedon. Get a no sweat first bet up to $2,500. That's FanDuel.com/lockedon. It's an official sports betting partner of the NBA. All right. Jeremy Grant's the big one. Blazers made minor moves at about 9:15 this morning. Adrian Wojnarowski of ESPN, 9:15 local time. Adrian Wojnarowski of ESPN reported that the Blazers had waived Trendon Watford. Watford had a guarantee date if he wasn't waived by today. It seems like a no-brainer that Watford would, is at the minimum. So it's like, it seems like a no-brainer that's like, yeah, bring Trendon Watford back. He's pretty good. Like, he's not, he's kind of a weird player, but he's like a totally functional, has a place in the league type of player. And you had him on literally the cheapest contract you could sign him to. This was puzzling. This was really puzzling. The only way this makes sense is a bigger move is cooking up, and they didn't want Trendon Watford's money to hit the books and be up against whatever tax threshold they were going to be against. So they wanted to get out from under that. And the other non-guaranteed guys are later in the, Jabari Walker has a later trigger date, and Nate Williams has a later trigger date. I don't think Nate Williams is going to be on the roster next year. So, but you just don't have to, doesn't make sense to waive him and then still have Watford's money on the books if the thing you're worried about is having Watford's money on the books. And if you say, hey, Trendon, can we push back your guarantee date into August? It's like, no, you can't just cut me in August. Trendon Watford wants to be a free agent during the free agent period. He wants to be out there when there's money to be had, right? Like he wants to get paid. So if you're going to do it, there was no okay, yeah, we'll push back the date and make it happen. If you need to get the money off the books, you just do it. Trendon Watford, bummer, fun story, easy dude to root for, cool guy, just legitimately fun, funky, weird player, shoots only floaters inside 15 feet, developed a much better 3-point shot in the latter half of the season, the end of his season with the Blazers. He shot legitimately well from three. Not much of a defender, but can dribble, can pass, knows where to be on defense, just doesn't have the lateral quickness or the vertical pop to be an impactful defender yet, but he's young. He went from a undrafted two-way guy to a contract in the league. It's easy dude to root for, bummed that he's gone. It only makes sense for two reasons. One, totally financial. They've got some other moves cooking and they do not want to be at a certain threshold. Or if you want to really cross your fingers here, is they got a big move brewing and Trendon Watford's money was going to screw up the big move. We'll see. We'll see what happens. I think we will have clarity on what the Trendon Watford deal was later on. We shall see. It struck me as very odd this morning, but there's got to be more to it. And so, as of right now, I'll just say, let's wait until there's more to it. The only other Blazers news is that Drew Eubanks signed with the Phoenix Suns. Likely, no financial reporting. It means it's likely a minimum would be my guess, but 2 years and 2 years to Phoenix. They right before free agency started, it was reported that the Suns, who had made a offer to Jock Landale to make him a restricted free agent, pulled that offer, no longer a restricted free agent. He was out in the world as a free agent, and then they agreed with Eubanks shortly thereafter. I like Drew Eubanks. I think he's a good backup center in the league. He was overextended as a starting center with the Blazers, and he got really exposed when he was asked to play 30 minutes a night. But as a low minute, 10, 12, 15 minutes a night, 18 when you really need him, plays hard. Can guard in space a little bit, has really good touch with both hands on hook shots. Not going to get cheated. Maybe chases blocks a little too much, but that's he's not this elite rim protector, and sometimes he can get out of position. But as a backup big, he's legitimately just a good basketball player, and it'd be totally functional to have him as your backup. I kind of assumed he was going to be the Blazers' backup. Working for the Phoenix Suns is a better job. Congrats to Drew Eubanks. Enjoy the desert. Okay, so the last question here is what's next? What are they going to do? What are they going to do? I don't know. There is some speculation around the league that the teams like Philly and Miami are still trying to get in on a Damian Lillard trade and acquire him in some move that is part of the James Harden move. We shall see. The Blazers have said a million bajillion times that they want to build a winner around Dame. They've done step one to do that. but they haven't made they haven't made trades. I mean, they don't have a lot of tools to do this in free agency. They're going to have, they probably won't have the full mid-level with the way the money is going to work. So they're going to have slightly less than that. My target guys for them that I liked with the mid-level, Jalen McDaniels, a sort of a big rangy forward with a lot of athleticism, last played for the Sixers. He's still out there. Kelly Oubre's still out there if that's your guy. There's sort of those targets in that mid-level money type world. Sort of, they have not, as I'm recording this at about 9:30 on a Friday evening, they have not. They're still on the market, so they can make those moves. But they're really going to make moves in the trade markets, and I think we'll have to wait for some other dominoes to fall to see if the Blazers do anything. If they don't, I mean, we'll just talk about it on the show, but you can't run it back, right? If they don't do more stuff, this Dame situation has to come, it has to come to a head, right? It just has to. So you're kind of just waiting for that to drop in some ways if they don't do anything. But they still have, their low-level free agent tools, and they can still trade Anthony Simons, and they can still, they're still positioned to make big moves. But if night one you were looking for action, you got the action that they were kind of boxed into, which was giving Jeremy Grant the bag, and otherwise they let two big guys leave. They let their two backup centers, their backup center and their small ball backup center, leave. They're still really small. They're still really thin in the front court, and they've got moves to make. And here's the thing: we'll cover them here. I'm basically puzzled, but I'm not I didn't expect big fireworks from the Blazers necessarily, but we've kind of been waiting for a thing, either the big thing in a Dame trade and the era to end and sort of the sadness that goes with moving on, and then shifting to being excited about young people and all, and the rebuild and Scoot and blah 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 blah. I think there's sort of just the anticipation of that, or the anticipation to really back up what you've been saying. If you're going to go for it and build a winner around Dame, go ahead and build that winner. Or give it a shot. It's too early as I record this to I don't think you should be upset with them. I don't think you should really channel a lot of anger towards them, but you should start squinting and saying, I don't see it. When are we going to see it? Because it is show don't tell season. They've done a lot of telling. They haven't shown you much. When they do show us something, we'll talk about it here. Tell your friends about the show. Thanks for listening to a bonus episode of Locked On Blazers, available wherever you get podcasts, free on all platforms and on YouTube. Like I said, tell your friends, come back. We got more shows next week. We do 5 of them every single weekday, plus bonuses when you need to. Not getting that anywhere else. Appreciate you listening. Talk to you soon.